Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks. What if we weren't just a podcast? What if we were your new best friend? It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Saturday mornings, or available to download later in your podcast feed. Unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
The Space Melange.
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer. He doesn't seek to podcast, he's called to it. It's Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
It's true. Ahoy!
Each week we'll chat about movies, TV, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our guest this week. I don't believe she is the Lisanne Al-Gaib, but I know she podcasts with honor. It's Susan Comyab-Stevens.
Hi.
Welcome, guys. It is good to have you back, Susan. How you been? How's life? How's stuff? How's everything going? You good?
Yeah, good as can be. Actually, there's quite a bit of movies coming out right now, and screenings are back, so that's nice, I guess.
Yeah.
I just thought of something. The last time we had Susan on, it was the card counter episode, and we didn't get to hear Susan's quick review of that. Have you seen it since you were last on?
Oh God, I don't think I would do that to myself after what you guys were saying about it.
You did seem very intrigued, like the hype that was around it and the reviews coming out, and then you were surprised that we both hated it almost.
But everything you guys said about it, I was like, that sounds awful. Like, I don't even think I could sit through it. Like, I mean, the way y'all were describing it, and like, I was like, because I already thought the trailer looked terrible. That was the thing.
Right. Yeah,
I saw the trailer, and then I saw the reviews were like good. So I was like, that doesn't make sense, but I guess it's good. But then when you guys said it, I was like, yeah, I'm going to take y'all's word for it. Now, if I get a DVD screener or something, I'll watch it, but it's not enough for me to go seek out and try to like watch it.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So Oscar Isaac is back on the big screen, so we have to have Susan back. Every Oscar Isaac movie, apparently. We bring her back to talk about. No, it's always good to have you on, and I'm glad things are going well. It's good to see you. Susan is a fellow member of the CCA and votes in the Critics' Choice Awards and has gone to the awards ceremonies. In fact, I think that's where we first met. I think, was it one of the award ceremonies?
It was
at a
Netflix
thing.
Two Popes for Netflix.
Was it the Two Popes Netflix thing? That's right. That is where we met for the first time. So glad to have you as part of the show. We're excited to hear your thoughts on Dune and Ron's Gone Wrong. Although I don't think you got to see Ron's Gone Wrong.
I did not get to see it,
so
unfortunately.
Basically, Susan comes on the show so that Andrew and I can scare her away from a movie.
I know.
Or let her know
Potentially.
she needs to see it. Potentially.
Now, if you rave about it, I'll probably. Well, again, I hope they'll give it to me.
Actually, I'm gonna look up. I'm gonna look up like what the Rotten Tomato, like the consensus is on that one, so I can.
On Ron's Gone, I think the consensus is actually pretty good on Ron's Gone Wrong. I think I saw somewhere in the 80s on Rotten Tomatoes. But I could be wrong about that. So we're going to do that. We're doing best ever desert movies for our best ever challenge. So we're going to talk about movies that take place at least significantly in the desert. And then, of course, we'll do some buried treasure at the end as well, where we kind of hip you to something else going on in the world of pop culture. But let's get right into it. Let's talk about Dune. Paul Atreides, a brilliant and gifted young man born into a great destiny beyond his understanding, otherwise known as every movie ever, must travel to the most dangerous planet in the universe to ensure the future of his family and his people as malevolent forces explode into conflict over the planet's exclusive supply of the most precious resource in existence, a commodity capable of unlocking humanity's greatest potential. Only those who can conquer their fear will survive. If you know much about Dune, it might be either the book or the 1984 David Lynch movie, which confuses the issue quite a bit. From what I understand, I've actually never had the willpower to sit all the way through it. So I put my hand in that David Lynch 1984 Dune box, and I took it out very, very quickly. Could not withstand the pain.
Is that what happened to you, Aaron? Is that why you died?
Yes, yeah, that's what happened. That's why I died. So you've got that kind of in a pop culture. Denis Villeneuve, who is directing, is apparently a big fan and wanted a shot at it. And here is his shot, both on HBO Max and in theaters. As far as the cast goes, you've got Timothy Chalamet hanging out as Paul Atreides. You've got Zendaya in here, Rebecca Ferguson, Jason Momoa, Oscar Isaac, Stellan Skarsgård, Javier Bardem, Dave Bautista, Josh Brolin, lots of big names hanging out and doing big parts in Dune for Denis Villeneuve. What did you think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Susan, we'll start with you.
I feel like I'm going to be a little bit of a minority here. I don't know how you guys are going to feel, but I'm somewhere between just okay and liked it.
Okay.
Dude, okay. Do I explain? I don't know if
we can give ours.
We'll get to it.
Yeah. Okay, then go ahead.
But yeah, so high side of just okay. Sounds like it's where you're at.
Yeah. Higher side, more between. Maybe like it a little bit more than when I left.
Yeah.
Aaron, what you think?
Firmly in the loved it. Maybe even bordering on high side of loved it. I was blown away by this movie in so many ways. I have one major issue that we will get to that I think many people have that I'm sure we will spend a lot of time talking about, but it did not change how great my experience was. Andrew, what about you? That's a big sigh, my friend. That is a big sigh.
I don't know where that's going.
I don't know. What does that mean?
You
breathe in, breathe out, my friend.
Last year, this was my most anticipated movie. This year, it was my most anticipated movie.
Right.
I like the source material. I'm with Susan. Maybe I could persuade myself. I don't know if I'm trying to persuade myself to like it more because of my desire for it to be good, but I think I'm going to land right at the very low end of liked it, which is still I liked it. You know,
I liked the movie. Yeah. I think there's some positive feelings from you guys. It's just, you aren't like me, blown away by it. It's not something that you came out going, oh, I immediately need to watch that again, which I did.
Oh, I've seen it 3 times.
You've seen it 3 times?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sorry, you just blew my mind. I know it's because it's on HBO Max, and that was going to be my next question is like, where did you guys go see it on a big screen, see it in IMAX, see it at home? Like, what was your viewing experience?
IMAX screening.
Andrew, did you venture out for it? Did you see it 3 times at home?
I found it. Then I went to the movie theater to rewatch it. And then I watched it on Thursday, and then last night I rewatched it again on HBO Max.
Okay, all right.
That's a lot.
IMAX or just a regular theater screen? Okay.
What about you, Aaron?
I fired it up at home. I have gone to IMAX movies.
I got a really good setup at home.
Because I've got an incredible television that I did a lot of research on, an incredible sound. And I genuinely believe my experience at home is better than going to an IMAX theater. Now, you're never going to get the same scope as that giant screen like that envelops you. I get that.
Just sit closer.
But it's like, sure, there you go. Just sit closer. But as far as like clarity and color and intended visuals, like nothing captures it like an OLED TV. Like just there's no comparison. When I watch movies at the movie theater. Yes, thank you, Andrew. That is laser IMAX might come close. Anything that's 4K, 2 projectors can kind of get close there. But But anyhow, so I did watch it at home. I did come to later find out. I don't know why they do this, but the HBO Max version does not expand for the IMAX parts of the movie, which bothers me. Like if you've got my TV has black bars at the top and bottom in this movie. You know what I mean? Like. Fill those up when it goes IMAX. Like, why are you just giving me, so that's a little weird to me. That is something that I'm jealous of for seeing it in IMAX is that extra, visual information that is there during those scenes.
You like that?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Here's I always find it jarring. The switching from, regular.
The switching can be jarring. Yes,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
But I always feel
like
I want to see the director's intended visual scope and palette, right? And so when they're painting for IMAX, I know I'm missing some of that, right? I'm missing some of the composition. I'm missing some of the effects. I'm missing, there's just, so anytime I'm missing something that the director intended for people to see, it's a little annoying to me. And so I would rather the jarringness of the expanding than missing out on, kind of the intended artistic vision, especially with someone like Denis Villeneuve, who I'll start there because clearly I liked this the most.
Mm-hmm.
He's just working on another level visually. Watching this movie, every frame I was blown away. Just like how he's, putting stuff on the screen, how it looks, whether it be effects or, action scenes or conversations or exposition. This movie is very exposition heavy, but he does so much of it. I mean, it has to be considering the source material, right? My understanding. But he does so much of the exposition visually. Is there narration at the beginning? Is there a little bit of narration at the beginning? I'm trying to remember if there's any narration in this movie. If there is, there's barely any.
I can't really remember.
There's voiceover. I can't remember if there's. I think
that's what I'm talking about. I think it's
right. What do you call it when it's not subtitle, but like the descriptor at the beginning,
Yeah, like some sort of intro. Like there's some sort of intro narration or something. Possibly. I just remember I was impressed.
There's not.
Okay.
There's not.
I didn't remember any. Oh, someone says.
Oh, there is. Yeah, there is a. It's a Zendaya is one.
They're right. They're right. She does. Yeah.
I'm not watching the movie right now to find out.
My point still stands. My point is that there's a little bit of that at the beginning, and if there's a little bit throughout, okay. But for something this dense with exposition, to not have a narrator have to come in every once in a while and go, here's how this works. You know what I mean? Like to be able to do that, like the explanation, for instance, there is, I'm just going to say, some sort of force field tech in this movie, like protection tech, like shield tech, right? In this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just explained in a, like a training scene. And it's not explained. It's just, you just watch it happen. And he's so good at like giving you exposition that somehow this movie that is extremely complex with the different planets and the different things going on, I was never confused. Never confused. Not once. I felt like I understood where everybody was, what their goals were. Like I was really impressed with his ability not just to put pretty pictures on the screen, which are great. Yeah. And by the way, Hans Zimmer's score is also next level in this thing.
Loves him some didgeridoos in this one.
Yeah. And so, all that stuff together for me presented me with like, okay, artistically, I'm compelled. I'm in. I can't wait to see what you do next artistically. And then story-wise, I also found myself connected and compelled by, this kid and what was going to happen. I mean, again, I kind of mentioned it in the intro. It's a tale as old as time. It's the hero's journey, right? Like, I mean, it is the absolute template for that kind of stuff. And in fact, you really see how much this material was the template for Star Wars in this movie. Like, it just there is such the idea of different planets battling because of spice trade. Like that is such a Star Wars core mentality of, we're talking about trade negotiations and, empire and, who's in control and all that kind of stuff. Because again, that's how we know wars have worked in our planet, on our world is, it's about money. It's about commerce in so many ways. And so, you can really see a lot of that DNA here that George Lucas apparently cribbed from. Basically, I feel like George Lucas was like, hey, let's take Dune and then add Kurosawa, and then I'll make, like a really big check. It's like basically a lot of what happened. But
and then you give me $1 billion.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how that works.
Have either of you either seen the David Lynch movie or read the books?
I've only seen parts of the Lynch movie, and I have not read the books.
Okay. Neither for me.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just curious about, everybody's history with the source
material
list. Okay.
I have lots of other things I could gush on about this movie, but it doesn't need to be the Aaron Dicer hour. Andrew, what are some of your thoughts, however you want to present them, on Dune?
I'm glad to hear that you were never confused. I'm glad to hear that you were never confused, and you've only seen it the one time, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay. My problem, or not my problem, my worry was like going into this, he doesn't over explain things. He lets the story be told, and if you don't understand something, then by the end of the movie, hopefully you will. He doesn't have to hold your hand, I guess is a better way of saying it. And knowing, because I've read the first book, and I read it so long ago, I barely remember it. And I saw the David Lynch movie a long time ago, barely remember it. But I remember the impacts they both had on me. So, going into this, I had, I guess you could say, a base knowledge of what I was seeing. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, I hope that isn't confusing for somebody, or, oh, they're not really explaining what the spice does, or something like that. So I hope it doesn't confuse somebody.
Well, let me just tell you what I picked up on the spice then. Since you bring out that example, my understanding of the spice is that it's on this planet, and it kind of has come to be this element they need to run their spacecraft and run the world. It becomes a fuel, and then it also has a drug element to it. There's this idea that you can also have visions or get high. There's a mystical nature to it as well. Yeah. So it is both valuable for actual literal commerce reasons, and also valuable because it's mysterious. There's this kind of mystical element. So it's like the drug trade and the fuel prices all in one.
It's not actually used as a fuel. I'm gonna get a quick explanation for it. It's not going to spoil the movie or anything like that. So the spice heightens your senses. They call it your spice or melange. If you ingest enough of it, you have a precognitive ability, and that is what it's used for space travel. They're called navigators, people who navigate the ships. Right, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Pretty much they have these navigators and just crazy amounts of the spice. And that way, whenever they're doing hyper travel or warping, it's kind of wormhole-ish how they travel. You see the big worm tubes that they come out of, ships come out of. So basically the navigators ingest all this spice, and that way they can look into the future and see how to plot their course to get to that.
Yeah, exactly. So you can understand how I would kind of consider that.
You're pretty close. But the movie doesn't explain that. And that's what I'm talking about whenever I'm really worried, okay, it doesn't really explain how the spice is used, but you're saying it doesn't have to tell you exactly what it does for you to understand its purpose.
Right. Correct. Okay. I knew its purpose. I knew, I got enough of it that I wasn't there wasn't a lingering question in my brain wait, I don't run that by me again. That just never happened in this movie. So yeah. Susan, you were about to say with the spices. What were you about to say?
Oh, I just said I just didn't get that. What Andrew just explained, I didn't get that far into it. I figured I knew it did something to you because it seemed like they got a little trippy off of it. But I was just it's obviously a prized possession too. So that was all I really gathered.
Yeah, they mentioned there's not a lot, but there's a mention of we need it for our pilots, for our navigators, and to get to do space travel, we need this thing, and so that's what I picked up on as well. Anyways, continue, Andrew.
Arrakis is the only known planet that has it, so that's why Arrakis is the big commodity planet. So that's really I'm gonna mention my big negative for this movie, but it's only to talk about my pros with it. My big negative is I look at this movie and I say, this is not a movie. This is a 2 hour and 45-minute pilot for a TV show. It is setting up everything without delivering a full story. It's just, this whole movie is exposition for future movies, it feels like. Now, if this was a TV show, it would be phenomenal pilot. One of like possibly the best pilot ever. But there's no first, third, and third act.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about this? Do you want to talk about this now, or do you want to wait till later? Because it's obvious. When I said I have one major negative, and it's huge, but it didn't.
Is this it?
And I think, yeah, no, it absolutely is, and I think it's most people's. Like I don't. I guess we'll talk about it a little bit now, as much as we want, because hey, this is our podcast. We can do what we want.
But just keep in mind that I'm talking about it to explain my pros later on. But
correct.
We can hold off on those. Sure.
Yeah. I just what I need to say, I guess, is that I don't understand the marketing of this movie. I don't understand why every poster, every trailer, every mention says Dune Part 1. I don't understand why they called this movie Dune. I don't understand why they didn't do a Lord of the Rings here. I am so confused by why this wasn't all shot at the same time, wasn't a 2 to 3 movie project where it was like, hey, they're coming out, consecutive years, how, like, Cameron's doing with the next.
Because do they even have a second one confirmed?
Yeah.
No, they're like playing some.
It's confirmed now, but
it is confirmed now, because people, when we left the screening, were like, they don't know if there's going to be a second one.
No, and I thought just yesterday, I heard them still playing this game. It's like, I don't know. You guess
I haven't seen any confirmation.
Theaters. Like, they're holding this second part over people's head. Like, I don't know, not sure if we're going to greenlight Part 2. Better go make billions of dollars. And it's like, I don't understand that. I am so confused about that, and it's kind of angering to me. It's surprising how much I love this movie, considering how angering that is to me. Because you're absolutely right. This is the first half of a movie or the pilot of a TV show. This is not a complete story arc. This isn't even Fellowship of the Ring, right? Like, I was talking about this on Twitter with somebody just yesterday. Like, this isn't even. This is the first half of Fellowship of the Ring. This
is whenever they get to Rivendell, and then the movie ends.
Right. Yeah. So
let me say just real quick what I found. Dune Part 2 is in the works. They're in pre-production right now, as well as Dune: The Sisterhood, which is a TV series, which is all about the Bene Gesserit.
So it's quote unquote in the works, but like, as far as like an official green light, I don't think they've.
It just says pre-production can mean whatever you want it to mean.
Yeah,
right now.
That's not like an official like confirmation.
They'll confirm it soon.
Yeah,
they'll confirm it soon. I mean, I assume they will. Now, I mean, I haven't looked at the box office for this at all, but I assume it's doing fine, and I assume they will confirm Part 2. But I mean, can you imagine if they didn't? Like, it makes no sense. It makes
what a waste of money if they didn't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's terrible.
You brought up the Fellowship of the Rings analogy, and that's actually what I was going to be talking about. That was like one of my big points is the first time I saw Fellowship of the Rings, I'm going to be totally honest, and I'm going to get my nerd card revoked. I hadn't read the Lord of the Rings books, and I really didn't know anything about Lord of the Rings back in 2001.
Right.
So whenever I saw Lord of the Fellowship of the Rings, I was blown away, and I was enjoying the movie so much. And then the movie gets to the part where Sam and Frodo start walking down the mountain towards Mordor, and then it just stops. In the movie theater, I was like, what the hell? What happened? I didn't know there was going to be a second and a third. But then I found out, they've already filmed these movies. There's already the trilogy that's been filmed. And I was like, okay. But at the same time, Fellowship of the Ring was a complete movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was a story arc to it.
Yeah, there was a beginning, middle, and end.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a beginning.
That's all it is.
That's all it is. Which
and a portion of a middle with actually a lot of bit of next time on Dune.
Yeah, I was waiting for a to be continued, actually. It's funny you said the TV show thing, because I was completely waiting for to be continued.
Yeah. Seriously, like, so many of those, like, I know they have precog stuff going on in the story, but so many of those precog scenes were basically, it's coming, guys. Next time on Dune. You know, it's like...
previously on 24. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, in the title card, whenever the title pops up, Dune, it actually comes up as Dune Part 1.
Did you guys
catch
right.
that?
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that should have been the whole thing for the whole time.
For the very beginning.
From the very beginning, they should have talked about how this was a 2 or 3. I think it's 2. They're still not really saying, but it's like, if this was going to be a 3-part or 2-part movie, like, let people know, because this is just there's so much frustration that could be avoided from people coming to the end of this movie and going, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, though, whenever I think of the David Lynch movie, and again, I don't remember much of it, but I do remember they tried to cram so much into one movie that's actually what I was kind of worried was going to happen again. But I was like, oh, Denis knows what he's doing. So I'm like, he's not going to let me down here. But had I known going in, and that's what you're talking about with the marketing of this movie, if they would have told me going in that this was going to be a series and that this was just going to be like the jumping off point, I would have had my expectations set and I would have enjoyed this movie so much more. So much more. But I keep coming back to why isn't this a movie? Yeah.
Susan, why don't you give us some of your general thoughts?
Well, I mean, that was my biggest issue with the film was that obviously that it's a beginning of a movie, but also beautifully shot. Nothing visually wrong with it, especially in the IMAX. We got to sit in the seats that had it vibrates with the D-Box
or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Dolby. Yeah. So so that was great. But I'm a story person. I'm all about give me more to work with. I mean, the actors are incredible. Timothée Chalamet is just his Oscar's coming eventually. But
yeah,
the first hour and 20 minutes, nothing happens. Nothing happens for the first hour and 20 minutes. Not enough for me. I mean, I had a critic sitting next to me who was literally looking around the room. I could see him just looking around because it was way too much. It was way too much exposition. It was way too much just dreaming and talking. And then you add that to, so I'm thinking, okay, well, this is going to be worth it though. Eventually this whole first hour and a half that nothing happens, there'll be a payoff. No, there wasn't a payoff because right when I feel like something good is about to happen, they cut the movie. And it wasn't, the parts when things happen were good. They were. I really did Peter Skarsgård, is that his name? I always get the Skarsgård.
Stellan. So good in this movie.
I don't know what.
Good in this.
He is great. I really love the scene with where he's got Oscar Isaac. I guess that. That's a wonderful scene. But there was those were few and far between. There just wasn't a lot of exciting scenes for me outside of visually compelling scenes. There wasn't a lot of scenes that helped move the story forward for me, that actually made me get invested in the story. So far, the story's just okay to me. I'm not hooked in enough. If it doesn't get a part 2, that sucks. But I don't have enough of a story to grab onto to really. I'll be well, shucks, I don't get to see more pretty visuals, but I guess I didn't really know much about these characters anyways to really care too much. And I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating. And we actually compared it a lot to Mockingjay Part 1. That was something we talked about because that was one that got a lot of backlash as a film that nothing happened in. But to go with because the first Lord of the Rings, I think had a really good beginning, middle, and end. So that was fine with me.
Yeah.
But at least the Hunger Games series, they gave us 2 really good standalone films to where the first one and then Catching Fire, I think it was I'm already invested. I don't care if I have to sit through part 1 of Mockingjay and nothing happens because at this point I just need to know how this story ends. I hope Dune continues because I do think there's something wonderful in the works. But I'm going to be okay if it doesn't, honestly. And I hate to say that because I do think he's an incredible director.
I was trying to think when you were talking about not connecting the story, what I do connect to. And I really do think it's the pull that the Chalamet character, Paul, Thanks for having a normal name, main character. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say normal. One that I'm more comfortable with.
It's easy to pronounce. Paul.
Easy to pronounce, yeah.
For me, again, because it's a name I know. Anyhow, because you could certainly look at that and go, Paul? But no, it's Paul. So anyhow, the Paul character is experiencing the growth and the tug and pull of two different worlds. And that's always interesting to me. And the conversations he's having with his mother are different than the conversations he's having with his father. And I think at its heart, this appears to me to be about a story about finding your own individual purpose amongst the quote-unquote destiny that your parents feel they are supposed to give you, which in this case are two different destinies. One is to be do they call them dukes? The duke?
Yeah, he's a duke. Duke Atreides is his father.
Right. And yes. And so, like, his father wants to pass that on to him. His mother has other things that she's trying to teach him and pass on to him. We get that great, in my opinion, scene about the voice, which again is another one of those things that's never explained, but I totally got it. I totally understood.
Cool. So cool.
Totally understood it.
Very Jedi.
There's a voice scene in a helicopter that I think is absolutely astonishing and compelling.
That's a good scene. Yeah.
And so for me, I go back to these scenes and I'm just like, the scenes are compelling for many reasons. Some of them are visual, some of them are audio, whatever the case may be. But they're also compelling to me because he's learning something there. Like he's trying to figure out something about himself there, what it means to be a leader. And so we're following this kid. I actually gathered a lot from his interactions with the, I almost said Khal Drogo.
Jason Momoa.
Momoa.
Yeah.
Because he's going back to the desert. What can I say?
Idaho.
Duncan, Idaho. There's a great name.
I actually, he was my favorite character outside
yes.
of Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah, I love Duncan, Idaho in this. But I went to a lot of those scenes and you could tell there's like almost this like big brother person outside of my family who has to tell me what to do. Like that kind of respect you have for somebody who's, older than you, but also closer to your age, kind of thing going on. So I felt like it really, for me, set up those story pieces really well. Now, again, half a movie, so a lot of that isn't paid off. Some of it is. Some of that is paid off in this movie, but not all of it, and not the big stuff, right? So, and even talking about performances, that has an impact. Even talking about Timothée Chalamet's performance, you go, okay, if his story arc is to go to a certain place, we're only seeing half of his story arc. So his performance almost feels a little lesser than it might have had we seen, a complete evolution or a complete change or something. I think it wants that final, there's a final scene. That's all I'll say. It's just the final scene of this movie. Yeah. I think they want that to be a moment for him. But it doesn't quite work because it's not the real moment for him.
No, it doesn't feel strong enough at all.
It was a stepping stone on his journey. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's going to be interesting, like this hypothetical future of if these consecutive movies and shows get made, like looking back from like 2025 to now, like will my opinion on this movie change? Like, okay, yeah, it did set up this world, and now that I can fully appreciate it, now that this full story is told, will I look back and go, yeah, you should have just been patient?
This is it. This is the question. Yep.
Or am I going to go, yeah, it set up the world, but if I'm going to look at this from a movie or a storytelling standpoint, it's not a good movie.
Right. There's an interesting thing here where there's you almost have to choose to either be an optimist or a pessimist here, right? Like, or whatever would be in the middle of those. Like, and I think because I lean so optimistic, I already in my mind, I'm like, more movies are coming. They're going to be as amazing as this. It's going to resolve the stuff that needs resolved. And so like in my mind, I am at the Fellowship of the Ring part where I'm like, oh buddy, I cannot wait, because I haven't felt like this since Fellowship of the Ring. I haven't felt this connected to a fantasy sci-fi property in a way where I've just been owned by it, where I'm like, oh, give me this story, like put it in my veins. Like,
so can
it
I
just
ask,
feels grand. Yeah, go ahead, Susan.
it's because you feel connected to Timothy Chalamet's character or the world?
Both. I feel,
Both.
I feel, and I think I feel more connected to the world, and I think that's because of the
world.
grandness and the scope. There is a care with the grandness,
literally
in the
the word I was
scope
about to use,
of this movie that I just fell in love with, and I was just like, so the story for me worked and was great, but it wasn't the primary driver. The primary driver is I haven't felt like, I feel like it's possible 15 years from now, I'm looking back at some of this and being like, oh, the you shall not pass scene. Oh, the Shelob scene. Oh, and I will have those moments with this property. And the marketing thing will be in the past. And it'll be like, that'll be like this hindsight thing where, maybe they should have handled it differently. But now,
your mind wants to push out the negative.
Right. My mind wants to be optimistic. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but there is certainly this pessimistic road that you can take that is like, this isn't a movie. This is, this.
Not. I mean, it is, but it's just not a whole movie.
You're right. Absolutely.
And I do think it's also misleading. And I can see in the comments too, people are asking, but like how much Zendaya is in the film. Mm-hmm. If people are curious, it's not a whole lot. I mean, you hear her, you have visions of her, but it's don't expect that you're getting the screen time with her that you are with other actors.
Dave Bautista.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's. I can understand because it does a great job building the world, and that's where all the effort is in this world. If you I know I don't know if this is a fair thing to say, because if you strip away the world and you were just to look at it, if you just really focus on just the story, is that enough? But I mean, I guess it's paired with the fact that this is supposed to be an experience too for audiences. Mm-hmm. So it does do that. You do feel engaged in this world, but I don't know if that's enough for me. I just don't know.
Yeah.
No, I'm 100% with you, Susan. This movie's like, here's House Atreides, here's the Fremen, here's the Sandworms, here's Arrakis, here's the struggle, here's what's coming. See you next time.
Yeah, exactly what it is. And it's just, and maybe you're right, Aaron. Maybe they'll make the second film and it'll blow me away. And I'll be like, all right, it was worth it. And I'm open to that. I am open to that. But right now I'm very let down.
I'm kind of bummed. Because when the second film comes out, if it's a 2-parter, or the second and third, if it's a 3-parter, who knows? My instinct is it's a 2-parter. When it comes out, I'm kind of bummed because in my mind, I'm going to want to just count it as one movie. I'm just going to want to go, okay, we saw the first half of this movie, we saw the second half of this movie, but because of the marketing not being that way, I don't know that I can do that. I don't know that it's fair for me to make that. That wasn't my decision. Their decision was, this is a Dune movie, not this is part one of the Dune movie. You know?
It feels like it'll be like one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
With Lord of the Rings, I rank famously on this show. We rank that as one film. We rank the 3 movies as one Lord of the Rings film, because it was always intended that way. It was marketed that way. It was always said that way. We're making 3 movies. They're coming out, in consecutive years. We're making them at the same time. We're just showing you parts, So we count it as one. I don't know that I can do that in my head here, even though it's probably a better choice. It's just I think it was a huge mistake. So,
I just looked up because I was curious how many Dune books there are. There's 16.
What? Was that did we just watch the first movie, the first book?
No, we weren't even halfway through the first book.
Oh, God.
There's technically 6 books by Frank Herbert. And then Frank Herbert passed away, if I'm not mistaken. And then his son picked up where he left off. And that's a lot of the people really don't like the way that the son was. I'm trying to remember his name. I can't. Maybe Brian or Brad or something like that. But anyway, a lot of people don't like the way he decided to conclude his father's work. But I guess there are technically 6 official Dune books.
Herbert books, yeah. Frank Herbert, that is. All right, we've chatted about this for a while. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about here. We do have another movie to get to. Any other lingering thoughts, final thoughts? One more thing from either of you guys? No post-credit scene.
I think
no
I just
post-credit scene that just wrapped everything up real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish there was a post-credit scene. Yeah, I do want to. The major good here is the fact that I do like Jason Momoa, but I don't want to discredit Timothée Chalamet's performance because he does give it his all and he does a really good job. If there's anything that might pull you in, is his emotions and his thoughts and everything like that. So
I honestly can't think of any performance in this movie that isn't spectacular. It's either spectacular or like career defining. Like I would not be surprised if I look back and go, okay, this is the movie that defines Stellan Skarsgård's acting chops.
It feels so big to me like that. It feels so grand that there's something really big going on here. I just haven't felt that way in a long time. Like I said, since Lord of the Rings, I just haven't felt like somebody has. And it's the same thing where Peter Jackson loved the material. Like it was like Lord of the Rings was
the passion.
Was his thing. And Denis, my understanding is the same with Dune. He loves the material. And so, you can just feel it. It's just that love and care. That care is just dripping off the screen. And that would be my final thing. I guess my one last thing would be to say, once again, if we can do anything to help you enjoy this movie, it's to put your expectations firmly in part one. This is part one. And if you need to be able to enjoy it, say they've already made part two, it's coming next year, whatever, just put yourself in that brain space and enjoy part one. Enjoy the first half of this experience. That's all I can say is that might help you out a little bit. I think it would help a lot of people who didn't know that. And I cannot believe that they didn't market it that way. Just cannot believe it.
Enjoy the spectacle that is the giant sandworms.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good spectacle. I loved the sand effects. I loved the sand compactor machine that they had and kind of like how it like displaces sand. Like there's just some really interesting stuff going on in this world that I've never seen before. And I loved it. So there you go. Well, that is Dune. Again, it is available in theaters or on HBO Max for a limited time, right? Like keep those on HBO Max for like a month
or something. Yeah.
Something like that. So there you go. All right, let's move in to Ron's Gone Wrong. In a world where walking, talking, digitally connected bots have become children's best friends, an 11-year-old finds that his robot buddy doesn't quite work the same as the others do. Ron's Gone Wrong stars the voices of Jack Dylan Grazer as Barney, and Ron is voiced by Zach Galifianakis. And you've got some other people you might know in there as well, including Ed Helms, probably the one you'll know the most, voicing the dad in this. Ron's Gone Wrong. First of all, terrible title. Let's just get that out of the way.
I hate it
Absolutely
so much.
Terrible title of a movie. I can't
remember it. I have to look it up every single time.
Doesn't sound appealing.
No, it's just terrible. It's like let's put words together that don't even sound like they go together. So Ron's Gone Wrong. What did you think? Susan didn't get a chance to see it. So Andrew, what did you think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay?
I am gonna go with. I'll go with really liked it. Really liked it.
Okay.
Not quite into loved it. I have issues with this movie, but I will say I really liked it. This movie says some stuff that I really resonate with.
So you heard it here first. Andrew believes this movie is better than Dune.
That's what I heard.
Exactly what I like this movie because it's a movie.
It's a full
got a
movie.
beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
I am going to land in the low side of liked it. And I may kind of tiptoe myself into it's just okay.
Wow.
There certainly is a lot to like about it. And Anderson, it seems you liked it more. Why don't you talk about some of that stuff? Because there really is a lot to love about this movie.
Yeah. I'm going to move past, like the comedy and stuff, which is all great. This movie is saying things that I really appreciate and things that I feel have needed to be said, and having them be said like in a kid's movie really makes me happy about the toxicity of social media and how, your online persona is not what defines you and stuff like that. This movie does such an amazing job of showing that. Aaron knows this. I hate social media so much. And having a movie that is like, here's the good things that social media can do, but it will always be overshadowed by what it can do to a person negatively because of how commercialized social media is now with like cookies and like recommended posts and stuff like that, and like how you really shouldn't be connected like this connected to everybody.
Well, and that's the thing this movie I think does well with that message is it really implies the scale that social media can have and why that's so dangerous as human beings. We're not meant to handle that scale of interactivity with so many humans, especially kids. Yeah. And so this movie I think handles that really, really well.
But I think this movie does an amazing job of saying technology can be beautiful. It does a good job of separating technology and social media. It shows you the pros of both without trying to combine them into one thing. Like it's showing you like the beauty and like the remarkable feats that technology can bring you. And, you know, it shows you some of the good things that social media can do, you know, like connecting you with friends and stuff like that. But it also does a good job of like separating like one is not the same as the other. And I really, really like that. Again, that is not to overshadow that I think this movie is really, really, really funny.
Yeah, I think what this movie gets right, it gets really, really right. But I also think what this movie gets wrong, and right there in the title, is really, really wrong. This is one of those experiences for me that I would have great things right next to huge eye rolls. And that's just, you know, sometimes that's going to happen. And so for me, that kind of lands in the, you know, I can say, listen, here's the thing. I had a row of, I'm going to guess 6th graders, somewhere in that 5th to 7th grade range. They were obviously hanging out for a party or something. And they took up a whole row. They had a blast with this movie, and that made me so happy. I love when people are having a good time watching movies, and it definitely is a movie that's saying things to them that I think are important and that, you know, that hopefully will, you know, resonate with them and their use of their devices and social media and all that kind of stuff. Because it really identifies the perils of connectivity really, really well in this movie. That's one of the great things it does. Another one of the great things it does, which you kind of mentioned and brushed over as well, is it's really funny. The Zach Galifianakis performance / writing for the character of Ron, which is this damaged, you know, robot, is great. Real Big Hero 6 vibes.
I was about to say he's very much.
It kind of looks like
he's
it.
Very much Baymax mixed with Wally.
Actually, I think the better title for this movie is Her Junior.
Really?
This is dealing with a lot of those same ideas of, you know, a companion who is a perfect AI who will, you know, serve you what you want, and how that changes your life and how that, you know, becomes your focus. And there's a lot of Her vibes here as well. But yeah, not the same scenes as Her. Very, 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 very different in the age.
A lot less. Fewer mustaches in this one.
Yes, fewer. That's exactly correct. So yeah, I liked a lot of this. I also really like the way it envisioned the future tech, which is another common thing it has with Her. That, you know, I really feel they get right a lot of the ideas of where this technology could take us once, you know, AI becomes smoother and more prevalent. You know, I've already ordered my next Pixel phone. Because I always order the evens from Google. So I've had the Pixel 2, the Pixel 4, and the Pixel 6 just came out. And so a lot of what they are advancing in those Pixel phones has to do with AI conversational ability, the ability to talk to your phone in a conversational way and have it do things that you need it to do. Or take phone calls for you, or call and reserve your spot at a restaurant without you ever having to talk to anybody. Like, you know, just AI doing these tasks for us. Yeah. And this movie really understands what that could look like for a kid's device. You know, the fact that these devices have, you know, skins that you can put on them, and they can look like all these different, you know, pop culture things. You know, so somebody's got theirs as a stormtrooper. Someone's got theirs as Captain Marvel, and, you know, and the way the interactivity works with, you know, live streaming and all that kind of stuff. Like, it really is a smart way of looking at technology, and all that stuff, like I said, is really, really good. But the bad stuff for me was really bad too. Did you have any other before I start kind of going into why things tore this movie down for me? Did you have anything else positive you wanted to mention, Andrew?
Yeah, I want to talk about how this movie deals with children and the pressure that is put on like the modern children, like in the social interaction with other kids nowadays, like the pressure to have friends, or like you need to have a certain amount of friends, like the pressure not only that that our main character Barney puts on himself, but also his parents, his teachers, and stuff like that. And it feels like they're forcing him to make non-genuine friendships and stuff like that, just so he can meet a quota, I guess you could say, of like yep, okay, you got a friend, now we can leave you alone, sort of a thing, as opposed to a genuine relationship that actually is built or grows from something natural. I really, really like the way that this movie deals with not only that, but also how people change over time. And this is really dealt with at the end of this movie with like, yeah, we used to be friends when we were younger. I don't know what happened to us, what changed in us, like why we became who we did, and, you know, stuff like that. I think the movie does, because I remember growing up, you know, like everybody had the friend, and then time passed, and then, you know, the friendship went away, you know, you just kind of separated, and you became different people. And then you'll pass that person in the hallway, you're like, oh yeah, when I was younger I was really close with that person. So
yeah,
no, it really on a personal level that really resonated with me. So I think the movie does a good job telling that side.
I think the movie does. This is going to lead me into one of my major negatives. I think the movie does a good job presenting the problem and presenting the issue. I don't know that it does a good job commenting on what the solution is. The movie's idea of what the solution is seems pretty unrealistic, and this movie isn't interested in balance, which I think is often the answer to these kind of questions. Right? It's trying to figure out how there can be a balance in these things, and the movie, that's not the route it wants to go. And I think the route it does go is ridiculous in both a logical way as well as an actually answering, you know, the pertinent question of how can kids find friendship connectivity through technology and do it safely. And the movie just punts on that. I think the movie punts on that. And that's okay. Sometimes it's okay to ask the question without giving the answer. I get that. But I wanted a resolution that maybe was a little more aware of the idea of balance, and this movie I don't think does that very well. So that was one of the things I came away after just going, yeah, I wish that would have been better. The other place is the main villain in this is so
mean
bad.
Steve Jobs.
Yeah,
or Steve Jobs.
Yeah, basically.
Who plays the villain?
Rob Delaney actually plays.
Yeah,
him.
I think that's right. Yeah.
If you saw Deadpool 2, he was Peter, the guy with the mustache. He does a pretty good job of just being a incredibly stereotypical bad guy. Like, but he's paint by numbers. There's no layer to him or anything. It's like he's like, okay, I'm the bad guy in this movie. I'm just gonna do everything in my power to be bad without having any there's nothing human about him. You know, he's a human person, but like he's not. He's just a set piece, or like he's the obstacle in the movie, as opposed to being like a moral dilemma. Because nobody is that evil. Well, I take that back.
Well, but nobody who is that obviously evil, publicly evil with not just employees, but even outside of the employees, finds themselves in the positions that he finds. There's so many logical fallacies with the idea of this character and their actions and what they do. So, so I really didn't like that character. Every time they were saying something over the top and ridiculous, I was rolling my eyes.
So they didn't give him like a good background story, like maybe that he had.
No,
like
none.
child
Zero.
problems or
No.
problems with friends.
Zero at all.
growing
No
up
background
or
story, no resolution, no.
Okay.
It was
I hate
just
that. Yeah.
it was
The
just
only-
that character is there to kick puppies. That's what
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
So
That's one of my
The only-
biggest pet peeves with like a villain when there's no reason why they're bad.
Yeah. The only background is it started in my garage. That's literally as far as the background goes.
Okay.
This whole company started in my garage. Now I'm evil.
Yeah. And then that's pretty much it. The resolution, the lack of really answering the question, some of the logical fallacies in that over the top villain. It was enough for me to go like, man, I'm hot and cold on this movie, and still enough to go I'm kind of inching into liked it just because it's fun. There's a lot of it that's really, really fun. But there's enough negative for me to bring me down a little bit.
I have to talk about this. It's kind of leading into spoiler territory, but I have to talk about it.
Okay.
The fact that this is a kids movie where one of the characters makes a huge sacrifice and the movie commits to that sacrifice without retconning it is like shocking. Like, you're really just going to do it. Okay. I didn't, good on you, I guess. I didn't know that you were capable of doing that. So the fact that this movie that is definitely designed for kids, there's even a whole lot of like a quote unquote adult movies, where like a PG-13 or R, where a character will make a sacrifice, and then the movie's like, just kidding, your kindness is, it's going to be rewarded. This movie's like, no, like there's a sacrifice means something.
Just so I'm clear what you're talking about, I'm going to talk around it as well. But you're talking about you're not talking about what happens in the woods. You're talking about what happens in the company.
In the company, yeah.
Yes, yeah, I understand what you're saying. So, yes, the movie does give a little bit of a wink to, like, the idea that, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is a little bit of a wink at the end, but you're right. It doesn't fully retcon it. It allows that sacrifice to stand. And I think that is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's whenever I think of this movie, that's like one of the things that always comes that it comes back to me. Like, wow, I can't believe that the movie did that. Good for you, movie. You get a thumbs up.
Yeah. I don't think. I think this movie is just gonna like disappear. I don't like 3 years from now. I don't think people are even going to know this movie existed. I really don't.
This isn't an Oscar animated award contender.
It might be, but even if it is, even if it gets awards nominations, I'm telling you, 3 years from now, the general public will not remember this movie existed, because it just feels like it's coming out at a time like when there's all these big movies that people want to see are coming out, and like, I mean, families may take their kids to it, but I mean, there may be generationally some kids who are watching it now who later have nostalgia for it, but it strikes me as like I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example of something that's just fallen onto the radar and people just forget existed, but like Meet the Robinsons maybe, or
Miller versus the Machines is a movie that came out earlier this year.
I hope people don't forget that one, because that was phenomenal.
I was going to say that movie is like my favorite animated movie of the year.
I think it's mine too so far.
I don't think anybody's talking about it.
Like, yeah, but that one will be remembered, I think, more than this one. My instinct says. But yeah. But there you go. That's Ron's Gone Wrong. I don't really have much else to say about it unless you do, Andrew.
No, it's a kid's movie, but I really like it. It's good to see that there are other players in the animated spectrum besides Pixar and Disney that can put out good quality content. So good job, 20th Century, not Fox.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a Disney movie technically, right? Like, I mean, Disney owns this, right?
Yeah,
I guess that's true.
So what's going to happen? Are they just going to stop making like 20th Century animated stuff?
That has to be the case, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, what's the point of having so many different production companies under the same umbrella?
It is wild. All right, let us move on into the best ever challenge. But before we do that, just a reminder that you can support Sif Pop. We do a weekly members only pre-show, a little bonus podcasting going on for our members. Love doing that. We talked about Denis Villeneuve's career during our member pre-show. this week and ranked. Each of us kind of ranked his movies, the ones that we have seen, and talked about his career and our feelings on it. If you're interested in any of that, you can check out those different levels of SIFPOP membership at Patreon, patreon.com/SIFPOP. You also get access to the main podcast ad-free and all that fun stuff as well. So check all that out there. Again, that's patreon.com/SIFPOP. All right, let's move into the best ever challenge. We're doing best ever desert movies this week. So movies where I think what I said was a significant portion at least takes place.
You said
in
a
the desert.
significant scene.
A significant scene at least takes place in the desert.
Yeah.
So that may widen it out a little
bit. I definitely use that. Oh, a significant scene. Okay, well, yeah.
I had to look up to see what would qualify.
Man, I should have said a significant part of the movie. That's fine. No. Stretch it out. Use it however you want. So let's go number 5 to number 1. Andrew, why don't you start us off? What's your number 5?
Remember, you said significant scene. I want you to remember that whenever I give you this pick of mine. I'm going to go with The Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Famous desert movie, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
It's not a desert movie, but there's a significant portion of this movie that does take place in the desert where, is it Zizi Yang? Is that the actress's name? I'm trying to look up. I know I'm going to be like butchering people's names, and I'm just going to apologize.
I'm not sure either.
But no, this movie is one of the best. Like, it's one of the most beautiful movies ever made. Yeah, it is Zizi Yang. Whenever Jin and Lo, which is Qin Shang, whenever they're like her pirate love interest, hides out in the desert and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Definitely not what the movie is really focused on. The movie is definitely focused on, the actual Jade Destiny, which this movie is just so beautiful. Not only from like a martial arts standpoint, but the way the wire work is done, and is just an inherent beauty in like the way this movie is told. So yeah, good job, Ang Lee. You are a visual master.
Yep. It is my own fault. I blame myself.
Yeah. That's such a stretch. Way off what I would think.
Blame myself.
There's a good portion of this movie that takes place in the desert, man. A good portion of it. You just forget it because there's so much greenery in the rest of it.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. It's all green, but
I didn't know there was a desert in that movie, so
yeah.
Learn something new.
There's probably like 30 minutes worth of this movie that takes place in a desert.
I think this certainly will count. My number 5. In fact, it might even get trumped. Maybe, I don't know. My number 5 is Mad Max Fury Road.
Trump.
There we go. What do you got at number 5, Susan?
This close.
I thought mine might get trumped here. Dune 2021 recently.
Oh.
Those sandworms. That's really beautiful. So,
yeah. No.
Whatever they are.
It was, This might be in my top 5 as well. In general, the movie we're talking about that kind of launches the topic, we don't necessarily usually put in our top 5, but you're not the first one to do it, and it makes sense. Like it's definitely a desert movie.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think there's enough desert in this movie for it to qualify.
I know. I mean, there's so much. There's one of the few things I liked about this film was like just watching the sand move. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. No, the sand effects are great. Andrew, what you got at number 4?
This is going to be a lot more on par. Once Upon a Time in the West. Good old Western. Good. You can kind of make the argument of prairie and desert, but there's a lot of just barren, like nothing growing in this movie. I love spaghetti westerns. This is my second favorite Western ever. It's just a crazy good story that's being told. You got Charles Bronson, Henry Fonda. It's Sergio Leone, who is the godfather of spaghetti westerns. It's beautiful. It's a great movie, great revenge tale. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Nice. I'll have to get it on my list. Let's see. My number 4 is Prince of Egypt. Comes in at my number 4. I love this movie. I think the music is amazing in this movie.
The music, yeah.
Obviously, the story has stood quite the test of time. This story, and it's just it's really great performances. Obviously, it would be cast different now. Like if this movie were made now, there'd be a lot less.
Val Kilmer wouldn't be Moses.
Yeah.
And Ray Fiennes wouldn't be Pharaoh.
But yeah. So other than that part of not aging well, I really
you
do
say that, but didn't Ridley Scott just do this story with Christian Bale and Joel Edgerton?
The Prince of Egypt?
He did the Moses story with Christian Bale and
I know what you're talking about.
Is it got Kings and Gods or something like that?
I didn't like it. I forgot about that.
Exodus, Gods and Kings, yeah.
Yes.
Christian Bale, Joel Edgerton, and Sigourney
What year was that?
Weaver.
That was not too long ago. Yep.
Wow. Yeah. Well, there you go. Anyhow, I think it is certainly a fair thing to talk about and a fair thing to say about a movie like this. But setting that aside, I have a very strong place in my heart for this one. So
yeah, the Let My People Go / The Plagues song is like one of the most memorable moments of this movie for me. Actually, for as amazing as the score and the spectacle of it all, I think my favorite scene of this movie is actually the Angel of Death going into Egypt.
It's incredible.
It's
incredible.
Such a haunting,
the firstborn,
striking moment in the movie. That's what I always come back to because it's just so quiet and eerie.
Yeah,
good pick, man. Such a good pick. I actually really like this movie.
Susan, what do you got at number 4?
Mad Max Fury Road.
There you go.
There it is. I mean, it was one of those movies for me that wasn't like, I didn't love this movie like everyone did, but I did appreciate it visually, and I think it's great performances by Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, Mad Max Fury Road is is one of those movies that's grown on me over time. I wasn't huge on it when it came out. I respected it in a lot of ways, but a revisit of Mad Max Fury Road really locked me into some of what people had already recognized that I hadn't yet, with just how incredibly the scale is, how incredible some of those visuals are, some of those practical effects that he's doing with some of those vehicles and stuff. It's insane. Mad Max Fury Road was my number 5, your number 4. I think that brings us to our number 3s. Andrew, what do you got at number 3?
Might get trumped. I'm going to go with Gladiator.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that movie, but that's a good one.
Not trumped by me. No,
not by me either.
The good portion before Maximus gets taken back to Rome, or not taken back to Rome. He's never been there before, but he's doing the tour, if you want to call it the Colosseum gladiatorial tour, all throughout the Middle East, and
I mean, there's a reason this kind of movie over the course of cinema history has been called Swords and Sandals, right? Like, there's a lot of desert too. There's a lot of sand to these movies. So I would absolutely consider Gladiator as a desert movie.
What can be said about this movie that hasn't been said 100 times? Joaquin Phoenix, one of the best villains ever. It's a visual masterpiece. I love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. My number 3 is maybe a stretch, but I don't think so. I think this absolutely counts. My number 3 is The Martian.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah, the deserts of Mars. Over a lot
it's called the Desert Planet, so there you go.
I didn't even think about that. Y'all are creative with your choices, but I mean, I love The Martian. That's one of my favorite films.
I do too. Seriously. It's so much fun. The movie is so full of life, and it's such a great central character that you just, the stakes are obvious. You know what the goal is. You know what's going on, and it's just a guy trying to, conquer the elements through science. So it's good stuff.
Aaron, I'm getting a lot of echo from you right now. Wait.
Yeah, you too. Is that on your end, Susan?
Am I echoing?
No, it's just me and... Oh, it's gone now.
Y'all don't sound echoey to me, though.
Check. Yeah, it's gone now.
Okay.
That was weird.
Okay, that was weird.
You guys have any thoughts on The Martian?
I agree with everything you said. I remember being blown away. I watched that twice in theaters, and that's like a long movie, right? Like, I know is it like 2.5 hours or something like that? But Maybe
Long
it's
enough.
not. Maybe it's less. But either way, my point is it flies by.
That's what I was about to say. It's a long movie, but it definitely doesn't feel it.
Yeah, it's two. Okay, so it's 2.5 hours. I don't feel that way at all with it, and I love that it's funny but dramatic, and exactly what you said. I mean, there's so many high stakes to that in that film. I'm on the edge of my seat most of the time, and it's one of the few movies I would call perfect. Actually,
yeah, I can see that. I see that designation
obviously, out of 2015, it's the funniest movie ever.
According to the Golden
Best comedy.
Globes,
Yes, of course.
Best comedy.
Yeah,
Such a fun movie. Such a funny movie.
Yeah,
that scene where he cracks his visor and he has to duct tape it. Hilarious. I mean, that's some Uncle Buck comedy right there. You know,
laugh a minute. Laugh a minute.
Yeah.
Very, very. Oh my God.
All right,
I still can't get over that.
On to our number twos. Andrew, what do you got?
Oh, wait, I didn't do my number 3.
You didn't? Oh no, you didn't. Sorry, Susan. Sorry. I thought for whatever reason when you were talking about
because
the
I
Martian,
was talking about the Martian.
You loved it so much. Yeah, Susan, what's your number 3?
It's Aladdin, the 2019 version.
Yeah. Totally get that. Had it in my honorable mentions for sure.
Did you? Okay, good. I was worried y'all were gonna be like that movie was terrible, but
did you say the 2019 version?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I thought I had the original
Susan,
in my honorable mentions, but
I do like the original animated more, but I was surprised because Aaron and I had this conversation so many times about my disdain for just pure recreations of live actions of Disney. But I think that Aladdin is the exception to the rule because it not only fixed, or I guess you could say retconned a lot of the issues that the other one had, but this movie actually had something to say, especially with the Princess Jasmine character.
Exactly. No, fully agree with you. I am not crazy about these live action remake Disney movies at all because they're literally just copycatting what we already saw and not doing a better job of it. I almost put it as the animated. I didn't know we could do animated. Otherwise, I probably would have just picked the Aladdin, the animated. But I did truly love this Aladdin, and it's exactly. I love the representation that's in it. It's actually like Middle Eastern actors and or people of color, and also what they were doing with Jasmine that we did not see in the animated film. And they have a nice new song that I really enjoyed.
Is it the I Will Not Be Silent song?
Yeah, you can't. Speechless, I think is what it's called. But yeah.
Do you know who wrote? Do you guys know who wrote that song?
No, who wrote it?
I could be wrong about this. I will look it up to confirm here in a second. I believe that's Pasek and Paul. The same people who did La La Land, Greatest Showman, and most recently,
it was
Dear Evan
great.
Hansen. Dear Evan Hansen most recently. So they know how to write good stuff. I will look that up and confirm that.
Good call, Susan. Good call.
Yeah, I like the live action Aladdin. I like the live action versions more than most. Lion King's really the only one where I'm like, what was the point of this movie?
Pointless.
But yeah, other than the representation.
Well, the good news is it's not live action.
But,
so.
It's true. it's true. Technically, it's computer generated. Yeah. All right. Now we're on to our number 2s. Andrew, what do you got?
You'll trump this one, but I'll go ahead and throw it out. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
I have it at number 2 as well, so we can talk about it.
Okay.
Right now.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You chose wisely, Aaron.
You have chosen wisely.
Yeah. This
is my favorite Indiana Jones movie. So
really, y'all aren't Temple of Doom fans?
No.
I
like Temple of Doom.
I'm a Temple of Doom apologist.
Sure. I like Temple of Doom.
That's my favorite one.
But Last Crusade it's because it humanizes Indiana Jones with the Sean Connery father character. Because for the last 2 movies prior to this, we've seen him as this, hero, like this, he's going to win the day. Yeah. But whenever you see him turned into a child in his father's presence, like after all of his accomplishments and stuff, all he has to say is Junior or something like that. And you see him Junior and you see him, just get cut down a peg and you're like, oh, wow.
We named the dog Indiana.
You are named after the dog. Yeah. The trials that he goes on, the Penitent Man, the name of God. Easily the best one is the leap of faith. It's just such a cool way that was shot. I love it so much. I love this movie.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense technically, but
hey,
but it looks gorgeous.
It's fine. It's fine. I'll forgive it. It's
you would have to have somebody's head locked into 3D space to be able to pull off that effect, but yeah.
It's like that street art, where like where people
in the
paint,
exact right
like,
spot.
You have to stand in this exact spot to appreciate it. And if you look at it from another, it just looks like this stretched out mess.
Yeah, all Indy had to do to solve that one was go like this. Just move an inch to the left. That's all he had to do to solve that one.
Yeah.
He didn't have to throw the rocks out there. It's my favorite Indiana Jones as well. Most people Raiders would probably be that, and I get that. It's kind of the first one. Susan, you're actually one of the first people I've ever heard say Temple of Doom's their favorite.
Oh my god,
which is great. I'm
I
glad.
love that one.
Yeah.
It's fun.
But yeah,
I think Temple of Doom is the funnest.
Yeah.
It's so lighthearted.
I think it's the darkest. I think it's. It is fun, but
he does rip the guy's heart out and then throw him.
You got hearts coming out, and this one just I don't know. I loved everything about it, but primarily I usually talk about the chemistry between Connery and Ford in this, and just clear.
Yeah,
it's such a clear father-son dynamic, and it works so well in this movie.
It's only surpassed by Crystal Skull. So.
Of course, yes, of course. Susan, what do you got at number 2?
I wonder if this will be Trump, but The Mummy.
No, I do love The Mummy though.
Really,
I love The Mummy. I love The Mummy. Wish I would have thought.
Yeah, I love the first Mummy. I mean, I think I even enjoyed the second one. Truthfully,
not the Tom Cruise one. Okay.
No, were you
no,
really?
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Okay, yeah, no, it's been a while since I've watched it, so it's hard to fully remember. But I remember how I felt when I watched it, and I know I watched it a lot when I was younger. But yeah, and just I always root for Brendan Fraser. I feel like we haven't seen him in a while. I hope he's
got a nice little comeback going on right now, though.
Does he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been in a few
Doom
things.
Patrol. If you haven't seen Doom Patrol, it's weird. It's such a weird show, but he's great in it. And he also had that movie with Don Cheadle and
the Soderbergh
Benicio
film.
del Toro. What was that movie called?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was that Soderbergh movie. Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but I can look it up.
Yeah. But no, he was great in it for the limited time, and now he's going to be in this movie with directed by Scorsese, De Niro, and Leonardo DiCaprio. So he's making a comeback. But yeah,
well, great. Well, yeah, he was one of those actors that I would say was one of my childhood actors, Encino Man and Blast from the Past and all those movies. I just really always enjoyed him. But he was great, and this was also the first time I ever saw Rachel Weisz in a movie. So.
No.
But regardless, the story was good too. I just thought it was a great story and exciting.
No Sudden Move is the Soderbergh movie that he was in this year. So, and I did confirm that Pasek and Paul did write that song from Aladdin. So
nice.
I did actually just rewatch The Mummy last month, I think, something like that. It was on TV, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna sit down and watch. I forgot how much I was traumatized as a child by scarabs. And how I thought that they were just going to come and get me, even though I live in Missouri. Scarabs are everywhere here in the Ozarks,
yes,
apparently.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
All right, on to our number ones. Our favorite desert movie of all time. Andrew, I've never been more sure of your number one in the history of the show. Yeah. But go ahead and say it.
I'm going to go with The Dark Tower. No. It's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Yeah.
Yeah. And in case you don't know this, it is Andrew's favorite movie of all time as well.
So that's your favorite Western. I was wondering what your number one Western was.
Yeah. We can move on. I don't know what else I can say about this movie.
Maybe I can talk about it because I've seen it recently.
You just recently saw it for the first time.
I just recently saw it for the first time. Yeah, and I talked about it on the show a little bit, so there's a little bit of repeat. But man, the absolute genius camera work during that standoff at the end in this movie is iconic. It's just absolutely 100% iconic. There's, and for good reason. And so if you haven't seen it, there's a lot of movie before that. Yes, there's a lot of good movie before that. But that final standoff scene is some of the greatest movie making in history, and definitely worth the watch alone.
I think it's almost a 4 hour. It's like a 3.5 hour movie. It's a long movie.
Yes.
Oh,
it is a long
man.
movie. It is a long movie.
And that's I think one of the only versions you can see like nowadays is the it's a 3 hour movie. I think one of the only versions you can find nowadays is the extended one, where there was a whole bunch of scenes that got cut originally because the audio was like bad, and then they redubbed the movie by actually bringing in the actors. So there's scenes where you can see like Eli Wallach and Clint Eastwood, but it's like the 80-year-old audio dubbing of Clint Eastwood. Like, so you can definitely tell, like, oh yeah, that's an 80-year-old man's voice dubbing over right here. But yeah, it's great. Going back to that final standoff scene, I think it's only elevated and made so iconic by the Ennio Morricone score that goes over it. Yeah,
that's a huge part of it for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
My number one is, speaking of Dune, my number one is Star Wars.
Tatooine,
which takes place mostly on a desert planet.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah.
I wish I would have thought of it. It would have been in mine.
Well, and honestly, I'm only half joking about the speaking of Dune thing. It becomes clearer and clearer to me how much of Star Wars was based on that material. The whole planet of Tatooine feels so much like, a desert planet, a sand planet, like
Sarlaccs are the sandworms.
The Sarlacc, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so much. Even the Vader kind of feels like the Skarsgård character, like there's just a lot of stuff there that feels very, very similar.
You're right.
So yeah, anyhow, Star Wars, I don't know. How many times do you need to hear a white guy talk about Star Wars?
Why do you like Star Wars? That's so foreign to me. What is so good about it? Has it turned into a big thing?
Yeah. Yes. What is more cliche than the white 40-something talking about Star Wars and what it meant to them as a child? All right, on to your number one, Susan.
Well, I had no doubt that this one would not be on any of y'all's list, but it's Holes with Shia LaBeouf. I
like this movie.
Love this movie so much. It's so good. As a kid, I watched it just because I was a big fan of Even Stevens, and it has so much heart in this movie. Not just that, but it's actually really well written. It has a good plot twist, and oh man, I forget the other kid's name, and I think the character's name might be Zero, but they're all the kid actors all the actors are great.
Is it Cleo Thomas? Hector Zeroni?
Zeroni, yeah, because it was Madame Zeroni's great.
Yeah, Cleo Thomas played Hector Zeroni.
It was him. He was great in it. I mean, Sigourney Weaver is great in it too. Like it's just a wonderful cast, but it's a really good story. Like it was good weaving in that stuff with the flashbacks and what was currently happening. And I don't know, I wasn't usually, I feel like there's a lot that these days, especially as a critic, I wasn't even a critic when I watched it, but even then I felt like not many things surprised me. And so when a movie did surprise me, I remember that, but I love that movie.
I love how faithful it is to the book too.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know it was a book.
it actually, growing up, it was one of the few books, like I don't know if like your English class, did your English or literature classes actually like the teacher read books to you and stuff growing up?
I don't think so, actually. I don't know that I've ever been read to in literature.
I mean, when I was a kid, when I was like in the elementary school, they read to us. I don't know about, you're talking about like when we were in high school?
Oh, no. Like, I think it was in middle school, or it might have been like elementary before, but yeah, they read Holes to us.
Oh.
Yeah. And it was spot on. So whenever the movie came out, everybody's like, oh, that was the book that they read us. And yeah, it was really, really good.
Nice. Let's talk about honorable mentions. Do you guys have any you want to list off? There's plenty.
Yeah, there really is. Every Western ever.
Sure. I had that one down too.
Well, hell, I guess I'd say Star Wars.
I had, let's see, you mentioned the good, the bad, and the ugly, obviously, which I knew you would. I really like Hidalgo. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Hidalgo, a horse race through the desert. Viggo Mortensen, really fun. Rango is a great animated movie that takes place in the desert. Recently, Palm Springs is a desert. There's a lot of that takes place in the desert.
Man.
That is a great one.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah,
I'll throw that in there too.
None of us mentioned probably what, the classic cinemaphile answer would be, which of course is Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh,
But
I try and force myself to like that movie as much as everybody else.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it's good, but
Yeah. Ben-Hur, Swords and Sandals, Ten Commandments, those
Stargate.
kind of things. Stargate is a good choice.
love Stargate.
I like that as well. Raising Arizona, also a lot of that in the desert. If you wanted to go with,
I guess
Coen
I just recently had that as my buried treasure a couple weeks ago. So that should have been fresh in my mind.
Yeah. So did you have any others, Andrew?
English Patient.
Sure.
I'm one of the, even though it won Best Picture, it's one of those movies that I still feel like I got to champion. Like, no, guys, it's really a good movie. It won Best Picture.
Yeah.
But trust me, it's a good movie.
No.
Kind of like how I feel with Crash. It's how I feel with
I
Crash.
like Crash.
I love it's such a good movie. That scene where
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you.
Yeah,
the scene where she jumps into her father's arms because she thinks that she has the invisible cloak. I cry more in that scene than I've ever cried in any scene in any movie ever.
You know what it is? There are just some movies when they win Best Picture, the people are just like,
they scoff.
Oh, come on. Yeah, and they scoff. And so there's it's easy then. The backlash is very easy to a Best Picture winner. And so Crash is that way. English Patient is definitely that way. Green Book certainly that way. There's just many that critics are just like, nope, don't agree. But
so I only had two others that I would throw out. Actually, three. I take that back. Fear and Loathing. It's weird. It's such a weird movie. It's just a masterclass in acting, really, if it's anything. The original Flight of the Phoenix, I really like, and then Treasure of the Sierra Madre. I know it's kind of a Western, but it's not kind of a Western. It's like on the border of being a Western, but no, I love that one a lot. So,
well, there you go.
Yeah.
Best ever desert movies and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. All right, we will move
30 minutes of that movie takes place.
All right, let's move into our buried treasure. Susan is the guest this week, so you get to go last. Andrew, you kicked us off with the best ever challenge, so I guess I can go first on buried treasure. I watched a TV show that just came out on Hulu. Well, I watched the first 3 episodes. I think there's 6 episodes. It's called The Next Thing You Eat. And this is Chef David Chang, who you may be familiar with through other food shows, chef culture, foodie culture, whatever, if you're kind of into that thing. But he's taking a look at the future of food, and he's looking at different aspects of the idea of how we will get our food, what that food will be. There's an entire episode on lab-grown meats. Like, the idea in the future, will we even raise cattle for burgers, or will it be, will burgers just be able to be made without actually having to put the economical and environmental resources into farming so many cattle across the world? And so it's really, really interesting. Is it great? I don't think it is, and I hate to scare somebody away from it, but what I will say is, if you are interested in the topic, watch it, because there's some really interesting conversation, thought stuff going on here. I don't know that it's a greatly produced show. So, like, you're not going to watch this because it's like, oh, this is great TV. You're going to watch this because you're interested in technology, you're interested in future casting, and you're interested in food. And that hits my Venn diagram pretty well. So, I definitely am enjoying this, and will watch the final 3 episodes.
Did you say it's a Hulu original, or it's just on Hulu?
Hulu original. It is a Hulu original that just came out.
Cool.
So that's called The Next Thing You Eat, and it is on Hulu. Andrew, what do you got?
Well, Aaron, as you know, I'm going through my lists of shame by years, so we're going to go all the way back to the year 1991, ladies and gentlemen. Operation Desert Storm had commenced, the Soviet Union was dismantled, Rodney King had the horrific police brutality scene in Los Angeles. I turned 5 years old, and a little ditty of a movie was released called Barton Fink.
Ah, yes.
Coen Brothers movie, it was on my list of shame for the year. This is probably the weirdest Coen Brothers movie I've ever seen. Like Coen Brothers movies.
It's one of my list of shame Coen Brothers movies. I haven't seen it yet.
It's good. I liked it. Let's start there. I like the movie. It's a kind of it's a performance piece movie where John Turturro is really just delivering easily his best performance ever. This movie, more and more, the more movies of his that I see, I am getting more furious that John Goodman has yet to win Best Actor performance, because like I saw this, then I
you said John Goodman. Did you mean John Goodman?
I did mean John Goodman.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, because like whenever I see him now in like Coen Brothers movies, I'm like, oh man, he was amazing in The Big Lebowski. He was amazing in Raising Arizona. Now I see him in this. He has this presence every single time he walks on this onto a scene. Like whenever he's going back to back with John Turturro, then I'm like, wow, this guy is good. Why was he never given the accolades that he really deserved? I don't know. It's a movie where you don't know what's real. You know, it's one of those movies like is this all in John Turturro's head? Is this like a social or a psychotic break? Or is the whole thing real and I just got taken on a crazy ride? I think the closest the Coen Brothers ever got to being this weird was probably Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? If you take all the scenes with like the sirens, you know, singing and stuff on the side, if you take all those weird scenes from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou and you stretch them out to a full movie, it's Barton Fink. And it's a really simple premise of a New York playwright moves to LA to write for Hollywood. That's the movie, but it is so weird. There's a turn that takes place, I probably within the last 30 to 45 minutes of this movie that totally changes everything about the movie that I'm like, oh, okay, so where's the movie going to go from here? And it's one that I'm definitely glad that I finally got off my list, because every single person in my dormitory in college had that Barton Fink poster, you know, up on the wall.
Really?
And now I realize, like, oh, you were just a pretentious guy who thought that they saw a great. I mean, it's a good movie, but it's one of those like, it's you got to either have a Reservoir Dogs poster or a Barton Fink poster in your dorm room, sort of a thing. So,
or Scarface.
Or Scarface.
I was actually going to say a lot of guys had Scarface, and mostly Scarface, but Reservoir Dogs, never that one.
Yeah.
Never. Oh man. Ever, like you could go like one every 5 dorms in my big old dorm building had a Reservoir. I had a Reservoir Dogs poster in my dorm room. So yeah. But no, it's a really good one, and it's kind of unlike any other Coen Brothers movie I'd seen. But I'd recommend it.
Barton Fink. What about you, Susan? What's your buried treasure?
Mine is actually You season 3 just released on Netflix, and you did.
Wow.
Yeah,
thank you.
Great job.
Me.
Just being on Netflix. That was really a nice surprise. Have you guys seen this at all?
I'm looking.
I've seen the pilot.
I don't think I've seen it.
I've seen the pilot, and it seemed really.
Is this the Stalker show?
Yeah. Well, it's very Dexter vibes. It's very Dexter vibes. But the first season, I loved. Second season was okay for me. I didn't get quite pulled in until the end, where there's like a big twist reveal, because it felt really repetitive of the first season until you saw what they did at the end. However, season 3, I just not only did I binged it in like 3 days, but Penn Badgley, I mean, surprise, surprise, he doesn't really show off his acting chops as well in Gossip Girl, but in this show, he proves to me that he really is such a talented actor. I didn't really, his timing with his comedic lines, a lot of his, it's all in his narration. The way he narrates his character, I am blown away by just the way he speaks. But yeah, it's an exciting like thriller, romance. It's got that vigilante sort of aspect to it where like, is it okay to kill bad people? But anyways, if you haven't seen it, if you're into that kind of thing, I highly recommend it.
Nice.
I'm going through his catalog, and I've only seen one thing that he was in, and that was
What's
Margin
that?
Call.
Oh, okay.
Which was the movie with the movie that literally had every single person in Hollywood in it. Yeah.
He hasn't had a lot like to really show off. Like I really think season 3 even is maybe just his best work.
Cool.
You would recommend picking it up, though. Obviously, it's your buried treasure, so.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Sure.
Season 3 of You is on Netflix. Barton Fink is available via rental, and The Next Thing You Eat is on Hulu. We did it, guys.
Woo!
We podcasted.
Yeah, we did.
We looked into the future, and we were like, we're going to set a goal of podcasting. And we have accomplished that goal. Well done.
The melange led us on the right path.
Thanks so much for joining us today for Sif Pop. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out again today.
Thank you, buddy.
Big thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Thanks to Drew for the visuals that go along with the video show.
Yeah, buddy.
And thank you to Susan Kamyab Stevens for hanging out with us again today.
Thanks, guys.
Where would you like to send people? You got anything you want to promote?
Yeah, I mean, thischicksflicks.com is my website. You can catch me on City of Irving's YouTube channel and Instagram, Twitter. I'm all over the internet.
Nice. There you go. Thischicksflix.com. Those are with X's, right?
Yes, with X's, yeah.
CHIXFLIX. If you want to check out Susan's stuff. And we appreciate you being here as well, Susan. Thanks for hanging out with us again. Lots of ways to connect with us if you want to. You can leave a comment, a rating, or a review at Apple Podcasts or email us at feedback@sifpop.com. You can also support what goes on here by becoming a member of Sif Pop. That starts at $3 a month. There are bonus episodes for some levels. There's a monthly hangout for some levels. Ad-free podcasts in your own personalized podcast feed. All of that you can check out at patreon.com/siftpop. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too. So make sure you let them know about it and that listening is much easier than dominating the interplanetary spice trade. We will be back. We'll be back next week with Last Night in Soho. Edgar Wright.
Horror.
Got another movie coming out. So we'll see you guys then. Bye.
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 Thank you to those who are hanging out with us live. Great to see really hopping comments today. Thanks for
I didn't have it pulled up, so
I saw that as really
yeah. Alex
when
is
I have
hanging
the
out with
comment
us.
section pulled up, I just get
distracted.
Yeah. No, I get like my actual like video, like see how I'm like whited out now.
Yeah. Because you
I have
use
to have
your monitor as your kind of light.
So I have to hide it. So now I can read them. See how everybody's doing.
Matt says, and I think this is to you, Susan, for the holes pick. I feel seen. Excellent final number one. So
thank you, Matt.
So nice.
Oh, Iron Man. That would have been a good one.
Yeah. Lots of desert in the first Iron Man.
Spaceballs. Sure. Yes.
I wanted to say something about Spaceballs because one of my favorite scenes from that movie is when they go comb the desert, and then
it's comedy gold.
It's so
comedy
good.
gold.
Mel Brooks, man, Mel Brooks.
Oh man, Susan, I didn't even because I have like everything shrunk for like my monitors can be my light source. I didn't even get to see your friend's T-shirt. That's amazing.
Oh yes, love this show.
So no one told you.
Life was going to be this way,
huh?
No.
Logan, I don't know. Would Logan count? I mean, we'd probably give, if we're going to give Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon credit, we could probably
30
give Logan credit.
minutes. Hey, I know that I'm doing my whole, buried treasure, or throughout the years and stuff.
Yeah.
So I really haven't had a chance to like recommend other stuff to you guys. There's a show on Apple right now called Foundation. I don't know if you're
I've
watching
heard good things. I haven't watched it. I
haven't seen any of it. No.
Well, you just said Apple, and I just thought Ted Lasso, but
Ted Lasso is easily one of the best shows on right now.
Yeah,
but,
well-deserved best comedy at the Emmys.
Yeah. But I didn't even realize how awful my hair was. Who cares? But no, I think not to like hype it up too much, but I think Foundation might be the show to replace Game of Thrones as like that epic event.
Whoa.
Now that's coming from somebody who hasn't read any of Isaac Asimov's work before. And from what I've been hearing from people who have, say that this is a terrible adaptation of it. But me not having any foundation with it, I think that this is going to be the show that I'm like, that makes me go, oh, this is the grand epic that is going to define like the next chapter. So
yeah,
I highly recommend it. It's one that you definitely have to watch multiple times to keep up with. But yeah, I wanted to throw that out to you guys.
Jay Bourgeois hanging out in the chat as well. Let's see, Computer Geek. I think I mentioned. Yeah, lots of good chat going on. Mark's hanging out there too.
I don't think we did do a show, or we did not do anything on Malignant. So
don't worry, guys. Malignant was not good, so it's all right.
Okay. Monster House.
I mean, it's fun. It's fun.
Does anybody remember Monster House? Yeah, I definitely remember Monster House.
I didn't watch it. I remember what it was.
Yeah.
I remember Monster Squad. That movie did not age well.
Monster House is really good. All right, thank you guys. We're gonna say goodbye to you. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. We will see you next time for the live show. Bye.